Today in the crypto space, we see the market going sideways. Bitcoin at about 38,000, Ethereum still around that $2,000 mark, and the rest of the crypto space, the altcoins, a mix of green and red. Today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, but more importantly, I want to talk about one altcoin, one project that is looking pretty good, and that project is called LitLab Games. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go bearish or bullish, up or down, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel and click that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on those socials. The links are in the description. And of course, guys, the Discord is where it's at. Feel free to join. Of course, good alpha, fundamentals, learning material, and all that good stuff. All right, guys, let's see what's going on here with the market. We're going to take a look at the general market first. Then we'll talk about Bitcoin to see if we can use it as a leading indication of what could be happening in the next couple of days. And then, of course, LitLabs it is. We'll talk about the LitLabs charts and see what's going on there. We know that the gaming industry right now, the gaming basically category, the narrative is definitely really hot. So the question is it getting a bit frothy? What I mean by that is it getting a little bit overhyped? You know, is everything running too strong at the current moment? And I feel like the market in general is feeling a bit of froth here. We're definitely really hyped up. The market is really propped up significantly in the last little while. And the question is, you know, do we continue, or is it time to get defensive? Especially looking for new entries with new projects that are very small in market cap. There's a lot of volatility in those projects. So you got to be very, very careful, be very critical with your thesis. You know, always keep the bearish and the bullish sentiment in mind, because anything can happen, especially right now when we see Bitcoin kind of hesitant, you know, potentially looking for a retracement any moment now as it approaches closer and closer to that 40K level. Ethereum kind of going sideways. What else do we have here? The market, as you can see, is very sideways, and a lot is still within structure. A lot of them are still within structure, no higher highs or even lower lows for that matter, going sideways. And of course, in a market like this, it's very difficult to get into entries. Right, we want to see extremities, we want to see volatility, we want to see breakouts, we want to see dips, we want to see something where we can get actionable. Right now, there's nothing really that actionable other than potentially coming down and getting a back test for confirmation. There are a couple of projects that are getting a bit of a back test for confirmation. And of course, tonight, live at 7:30 Eastern, we can talk about a lot of these projects. If you have any that you want to request, that is a great time and place to make those requests, and we'll talk about them as a community, and I'll put them in top priority. All right, guys, let's take a look at what else is this market showing us today. Nothing really that interesting. As you can see, pretty sideways. Makers looking pretty good. At least, you know, it's only up 4%, but making us a higher high is nice. Obviously, breaking out of the previous highs is a nice impulsive move to the upside. GRT still going sideways. I feel like GRT, when it moves, it's going to move hard. So be careful and be prepared for GRT. The graph stacks getting a small pullback, but nonetheless following the Bitcoin narrative, up approximately 20%. Pretty healthy there. What else? Sideways everywhere. IOTA waking up 52% to the upside. What a nice move overall to see IOTA running up like this. It's been around for a while, guys. IOTA, it's not a new project, but nonetheless, any volume, any you know, spike to the upside is welcomed on any project. Doesn't matter its age or its narrative for that matter. What else do we have? Mina Protocol taking a bit of a dip. Terra Luna Classic still prop up there, over 60% to the upside in the last 7 days. Guys, that thing looks a little interesting to me. But yeah, we see other projects coming down. Pith Network coming down just a little bit, 16% in the last 7 days. A bit of a dip here. The entries that I got were a little lower than where we are right now, so I still have some wiggle room to play with. I'm expecting Pith to do pretty well in the up and coming bull run, even though it is slightly a larger cap altcoin. What else do we have? Radix waking up today, a nice little pop to the upside. I feel like some YouTube channels, some socials are definitely pumping it up a little bit today, up 5%, pretty good, not bad. And as you can see, the rest of the market, the general consensus on this market is fairly sideways. Quite boring, but it doesn't mean that you can't prepare. Doesn't mean that you can't build thesis. Doesn't mean that you can't be studying other projects and preparing for the up and coming volatility. And that way you're not blindsided, you're prepared, ready to go. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin looking at Bitcoin. What is going on here? This is LITT, obviously, the LitLab's price chart, but let's take a look at Bitcoin first. We can see that Bitcoin is still within consolidation. It's still within its trend, still within the channel. It's doing its thing, right? There's no clear direction at the current moment in the sense that, like, is this going to be short-lived? Is this grind to the upside, gonna kind of end very soon? Is the trend gonna be our friend forever? And that's the issue here, guys. The more we continue with this trajectory while we see the momentum kind of roll over, it leads me to believe that it's very healthy for us to be defensive. All right, guys, let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. You can see that we are slowly moving to the upside with this grind. It looks like a consolidation, an upward sloping consolidation, right? It's no impulsive moves here on the daily. Very consolidation-like. The only thing is that this consolidation is upward sloping into a nice channel, which statistically speaking should break down bearish. Okay, this is the reality. The measured move of such a pattern, let's say, is usually right back down to the base of the wedge, or the channel in this case, which it could come down to about 35k. But really, a lot of people, including myself, are preparing. We're preparing for a retracement. The retracement could definitely get us down to about $32,000. And what I'm really trying to project here for a lot of individuals, especially the individuals that are part of my community, is that the reality is, big picture, this bottom has not been tested. This bottom has not been confirmed at all. This looks very corrective. The slow grind to the upside, deeper retracements, right, type of thing. Waves that look very, corrective like. I don't see any major impulsive move to the upside. So, for example, if we go on to the 4-day, the 4-day, we see a nice impulsive move, big impulsive candles, to the downside. Then this looks very corrective. This looked very corrective, right, in comparison to this impulsive. So usually we get impulse, corrections, impulses, impulse, and corrections in between. Now this looked like a really big, 5-wave structure, and now maybe we get a 3-wave structure. And then can you imagine what would happen if we attempt to come back down for another impulsive move to the downside? This is where the bears come in, right? The bears are definitely looking at this as a possibility. Now, I am not expecting a lower low here, but we can't negate the fact that it's possible. We also can't negate the fact that it is very possible that we come down and hunt some liquidity and get, induce some max pain here on the general market. Very possible. For me, the average retracement would be about 25k. And to see Bitcoin retrace 30% would take us more or less at about 30k, 31k. And if we break this diagonal support, we'll definitely start looking for horizontal support, which a good portion of it is definitely at 25k. So really, I'll be happy to DCA a bit at 31, a bit at 25, and of course, still reserving capital and basically raising funds to be buying the dip at lower levels if we happen to get an event where we get a deeper retracement down to maybe an 886. So either way, it's all about probability. I think a deep retracement is not very probable. However, it's safe to say that we should prepare. A 30K retracement, 31K is definitely possible, and 25K, although it's less possible, it's still likely, and I'm preparing for that one. So Bitcoin right now still within a nice retracement to the upside. Let's see what kind of impulsive move we do get if we do break to lower levels and take full advantage of that opportunity. Okay, so that's my take here on Bitcoin, big picture, and obviously on the short-term time frames, guys, nothing has really changed. You know, we're kind of hesitating here, doing our thing. I'm waiting for some patterns. Do we break down, touch the bottom here, or do we actually break to the upside and hit 40K? Either way, it's not an actionable trade for me. The risk to reward is not healthy. It's a 50-50 shot. And if a lot of people think this way, the only way to get the market moving again is to come down, get a great risk to reward ratio opportunity, and then people will be buying in, and that is when we'll get that spike to the upside once again. So this is very textbook, you know, a very indecisive market, a market that's not willing to take risk at these highs. And ultimately, if we do see a move to the upside, it may be based on a short squeeze, and again, that could be a very clear indication of price manipulation for Bitcoin. All right, guys, let's move on. Today's video obviously is on about LITT. We're going to be talking about LITT Labs. It's one of the projects that many of us on the Discord have been talking about for the last couple of weeks. And, you know, it's been doing very well, of course. Now, a lot of projects have been doing well. We got to understand this is where the froth comes in. This is where everything's overheated. And when things are overheated, it leads me to believe that it's time to, you know, induce a bit of pain in the market. Everybody's too profitable. Everybody's too confident. Everybody is a very, very confident trader and with no experience because the market has been on easy mode lately. So the market has a way of, you know, punishing those individuals, unfortunately. And this is the issue, is that those people or the individuals that got in are usually the very greedy ones because they don't understand that the market's correct and they think it's going to always be up to the right forever. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to correct, but what I am saying is the probability based on the facts that I'm going to share with you here are very high. And the reality is, if you look at the volume profile and you look at what's been happening here for LITT Labs, there is very little to no support below at all. If you look at all of this, the volume profile, all of this from the beginning of the breakout is a low volume price action. Very little market participation is involved in this move to the upside. Whereas the majority of the market participants are all the way down here in this accumulation phase, all the way here at the bottom. This is the healthy entry. Let's go on the daily so we can consolidate this a little bit. Getting in at this current moment has a lot of risk, right? So what we have to understand is what we really want to do is improve our risk to reward ratio. Now, the daily is overbought with a nice divergence. It's a bit of a class B bearish divergence, given the fact that we have lots of double tops. Okay, let me show you what I mean. Double tops, not including the wicks. You got to exclude these wicks, fine. And then all of a sudden, we see that the momentum, both momentum oscillators, the RSI and the MACD, are both downwards sloping, as you can see. And we'll get into the 4-hour to kind of confirm this with more detail, but you can see that. On the MACD, what I would be looking for is an EMA cross with one little red histogram bar, and then it starts to improve the possibility of us rolling over. Right now here on the daily, this is not really a complex pattern. It's actually not really a pattern. So what I would expect on the daily is maybe a little bit more, maybe a spike to the upside, maybe a head and shoulder formation that kind of, you know, builds here over time. And it does take a little bit of time for the daily to do its thing. But I know the bulls are going to be like, look, this is a bull flag. And the only way you're going to have to treat this as a bull flag is on lower time frames, right? Because sticking big picture at the current moment on the daily and holding for a long term is very viable. But understanding that if we do get a failed breakout, come back up, get rejected, back test, maybe get a dead cat bounce, come down, break the neckline, and perhaps start testing lower levels. Right? This is what usually happens when there's a lot of froth in the market. And then we start to see the follow through of this divergence, the follow through of this divergence, right? So what I would be right now is preparing for this to happen. And the only way to do that is keeping this exactly in mind. If you're going to go into a fresh long at the moment, put a stop loss. Put a stop loss underneath this consolidation. Now, I know that these wicks right now make it very difficult to identify a bottom. Do we include the wicks? Do you exclude the wicks? I like to include the wicks when I look at, you know, charts, but if you include the wicks, the risk to reward ratio, or in this case, the amount of volatility that you could or will have to endure is quite a bit. We're talking about a range here, guys, if you include the wicks. It's pretty big. If you look at it, it's a 20%, 25% range from the current entry to the bottom of the wicks. That is a pretty big range, right? So you want to try to improve your risk to reward by getting an entry as low as possible to these bottoms. And the only way to do that is to scatter a few buy orders down here. That will not guarantee you a position, right? Because you never know, it may not get down there ever. And in fact, maybe if it does get down there, it's finally breaking down. So that's why you kind of want to have a stop loss nearby your entry so that you can cut yourself off if it does start to break down. Now, that would be considering a bearish scenario, but ultimately really bullish, because if we can DCA right here at the bottom, what it definitely does is gives you a great entry with a healthy risk to reward ratio. And if eventually we make another leg to the upside, a bullish move to the upside, you're in definitely some good gains while mitigating your risk. Okay, so let's look at the 4-hour. You can see the structure is a lot more clear on the 4-hour. It does look like an inverse head and shoulders a little bit, not very clear, but still there, right? A little bit of, divergence as can be seen. We're in the chop zone on the RSI. Does it mean that it's going to get oversold? It's possible. Look at oversold condition, very oversold condition. This has been overbought significantly and for a good while. So what I want to see eventually to get in with a bit of confidence is oversold, but you can see we're getting a bit of support here on the chop zone, which is the 50% mark of the RSI. So this is why a lot of people, especially with bullish sentiment, as soon as we get in the chop zone, we start to question, do we get support in the chop zone? Similar to what happened here. Support, another attempt. Do we right here, support, another attempt. Again, do we get support and go for another attempt? The only way you're going to do that with maintaining a good risk profile is by putting a stop loss underneath this consolidation and then quickly taking profit. Because if you look at the daily, remember the daily, the divergences are there. Okay, so we got Class B bearish divergence on the daily, and you can see the momentum's falling, and overall we can agree that the market is looking a bit frothy in the last little while. Too many gains, too many profitable new traders, and that's usually an indication of, look, we might want to protect ourselves. And what does that mean? Well, Fibonacci is the only thing that we can use at the current moment. We take a swing high and take it down to a swing low, and then we basically see this consolidation show us that we could get to the 1.27 extension or the 1.618 extension. All good zones for profit taking and de-risking. Trailing up stop losses, taking 10% off the top. That way you reduce your position size in profit, and if it does come back down to backtest, you have capital to buy the dips on. So I would be watching this level for sure, and as it enters price discovery, the reality is that's the only places that you can actually consider for any resistance, really, because once you're in price discovery, what else? You have no price action looking left. But still a very hectic place to get into a fresh long with tons of conviction, because this complex pattern could definitely turn into a bearish one that eventually gets that bigger rollover and comes down to backtest the major breakout, which is all the way down here. As again, guys, look at the volume profile. No, very extremely little supply and demand in this area to act as support if this price is going to reject and come down. We have the 200 EMA. Where's the 200 EMA on the daily? It's all the way down here, which is a very confluent, very important EMA. It's so low. And then we have the 20 and the 50, which, are pretty much, the price is fairly extended away from the 50 anyway. So again, back down to these levels is very possible if we get a retracement and we see some bearish price action here on Bitcoin. But if you're going to get into a long, again, just remember, this is the structure that needs to hold support. If it doesn't, expect a dump to the downside. And of course, that would be a great time and place to take more risk and accumulate for the bull run. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor and slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. And of course, if you want to follow me on those socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join the Discord, guys. The Discord is a great community. Lots of good alpha, trade setup, fundamentals, and learning material. Take care, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you tonight. And don't forget, buy the dip.